Hey guys, welcome to American Discourse Live. Today we are going to dive into the Epstein files. So, this episode is only going to be focusing on the Epstein files, and we are going to look at the patterns that I noticed when I was reading through the Epstein files and some of the more egregious things that I think need to be pointed out. So, to kick it off, I just want to talk about how when you go through the Epstein files, you start to see a pattern. And Epstein really focused on having a financial power structure. So he had links with the Rothschild family, the Rockefeller banking industry. And when you look at these files, you actually see that these people were talking to him for advice. Epstein was an advisor to um, the Rothschilds. He wasn't just asking them questions, more so than not, they would be asking him questions. So I found that to be really interesting that it wasn't like Jeffrey Epstein was going around like saying, "Oh, can you tell me this? Can you tell me that?" No, people were giving him information and he would use that information to actually um, basically talk to other people. So he acted like intelligence and what he knew was the currency. And a lot of money was flowing through Epstein. So that was really interesting when I was looking into this. And I thought, you know what, let's just keep going. And then another thing I noticed was he was very close with Steve Bannon. And this was during the time where Trump was trying to be reelected in the 2020 election. And when I was reading these files, it looked like Steve Bannon and Epstein didn't actually like Trump. They thought he was more of a puppet. Steve Bannon would talk in his ear. And it was really interesting because Epstein and Steve were talking about how they kind of ran things behind the scenes. And I don't think anyone really would have thought that. But if you look back on the Epstein files, they talk about how Steve is there and he's doing a lot of bidding behind the scenes. He's going to different countries, talking to different foreign heads of state. And that's something that I didn't think a lot of people knew about Steve Bannon. I think people thought he was strategy, but they didn't realize that he was kind of doing the bidding of Epstein. And they would talk back and forth about globalism and kind of trying to fight globalism, which I thought was very interesting. Because I think there's two sets of elites after I read this, and it looks like one set of elite obviously wants a global world order, and then it seems like another set doesn't want that. So that was kind of interesting. And then a couple other things I kind of just wanted to talk about was the more egregious um, emails that I saw. I'm not going to bring them all up, but I did find a few that I thought, okay, this is something that we need to bring to the table. What does this stuff even mean? So I'm going to share my screen. I put these in a Notion board, which is easy for me to read, and I'll show it for everyone. Um, but let's just start at the top here. I posted this on my Twitter, but Jeffrey Epstein got an email from Nathan talking about, well, basically, Epstein emailed him first and said, "Thanks for letting me attend Kirkland kindergarten. I did not get the pistachio ice cream, but maybe next time." I could not find anywhere else what pistachio ice cream could mean at this time. So if you guys know what that means, please let me know in the chat. I'm sure it's something nefarious. I just could not get a read on that, and I don't know what that actually means. And then this guy messages back, "Sorry about the ice cream." Now, this was back in 2013, and this Nathan, he did have younger children at that time. Um, and he was around the Washington, D.C. area. So why would Epstein be going to a kindergarten? And then is this kindergarten complicit in anything? That seems strange to just have a random man go into a kindergarten. If you were to go to my child's school, you would have to be buzzed in the front door. So this is not something that's normal behavior at all, which goes to show when you have more money and more power, you get more access to things you should not be able to have access to, like little children. And then found this one. Um, Someone, because it's redacted, said there are millions of babies, very little good vegetable cream cheese. And Epstein replies, haha, do you want veggie cream cheese tomorrow? I would go look for it now. Now, if you've been following the files at all, there's a lot of implications that they were actually eating babies. And I think that's disgusting. It's weird how they talk about it because they joke about it. It's not like it's something that's appalling to them or they're trying to be hush hush about it. They giggle. Like, if you go through a lot of these files, what's really creepy is how laid back, easygoing, and kind of like a jokester Epstein is. He doesn't seem to be taking it seriously, all of the things he's implicated in and he's actively doing. So I think that's very creepy. And also, just to point out, why is the person that is talking about having a cream cheese baby, and someone titled it, the subject of the email, that, why are they redacted? Why have we redacted the people who are actually in on this? I know a lot of people are upset about that. I know that currently we are looking, well, I think it was a Rokana and Massey, they were looking at the files unredacted yesterday, and they set out a question on Twitter like, hey, let me know what we should be asking about. But quite frankly, it should be common knowledge. Everyone should know who the heck Jeffrey Epstein was talking to about a cream cheese baby. So that's very disturbing. I didn't pull up any pictures for this, by the way. I don't want to get into that. If you want to do that on your own time, that's perfectly fine. But it's already kind of crazy enough. So this one I thought was really crazy. On September 21st, 2011, someone by the name F said, don't know if you are still on this BBM, but heard from the Duke that you have a baby boy, even though you never kept in touch. I'm still here, or I still am here with love, friendship, and congratulations on your baby boy, Sarah. And then they said, what is your number? Or I'm sorry, then they didn't say, but Epstein didn't reply to that. So sorry, I jumped to my second one. So Epstein did not reply to that, but there's now, some sort of rumor that Epstein had a baby boy. Now, with all the nefarious things that goes on, what happened to this baby? I don't know if there's any record of Epstein having a baby. Let me know in the comments if you see any record of that. I couldn't find anything but this email. But why would someone send that? Obviously, Epstein didn't reply that we know of. Now, we don't have every single file. It would be very interesting if we found out in the files he replies, or the last batch of files, if we ever get them. But from what I could tell, there was no reply to this. And then what I found was really weird was this email. So I'm going to move on. My next email, Jeffrey Epstein got a question, what is your number? And then he asked, what happened, baby, question mark. And maybe he's talking to someone calling them a baby, but the amount of times, and I didn't pull up, and I think I can actually do it live. Give me 2 seconds and I'll try and find it. There's a way you can look and see how many times it came up in the file. I'm going to do it while we're here because he says the word baby an unusually odd amount of time for him to not be guilty of something. Oh, there you go. It's at least listed in the files 2,054 times. And that's insane. So I wanted to bring that to light, that he uses that a lot, like baby smell. And there's talking about there's nothing like a new baby smell, right? That's creepy. Why would you email about that? New moms say that. So they say that sometimes, but it's not like, I don't know. It's not like that's normal, right? Like, we don't just go around talking about babies and emailing about babies all the time. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this is sick behavior, and it's obvious that, there's something going on. And if you guys want to look at the Epstein files in a more easy place, I'm going to actually scroll back to where we were. You can go to JMail.World, and this is an awesome place to go. What's gross is, like, you can go on this. You've received a flip video message from baby. We don't ever see what those actually are, but what's cool is you can view the original document on the U.S. Department of Justice, 18 age, Yes, obviously. And then it just shows you the actual message, but it's nice to just see it as Epstein's email. So you can come in here, you see that's Jeffrey Epstein's picture. Someone made this. So this is super nice when you're trying to research and try and find things. And if you ever see anything on Twitter or anywhere else, you can come in here and search the key phrases, or you can go to the DOJ's website and do it. So just so you know where to reference these things, so it's a little bit more digestible. That's where I've been going. That's why my screenshots might look different than other people's, because I'm in the JMail.World instead of the DOJ's website. But all of these I actually referenced and made sure it traced back to the DOJ. So they're not fake. They're just fun, is what I would say. So yeah, I thought those were really interesting. Now here's one that's kind of sad to me. I'm going to read it. I'll share my screen again. This one says he sent how baby, which he talks like this a lot. And you'll notice that he doesn't use, like when I would send emails, you would see it like, hello, thank you for, emailing support, whatever, just how we all talk, right? He talks very shorthand. That's another thing to know about Jeffrey Epstein. He's very shorthanded in his typing. But on here, he replied, some guy replied, almost stable, mostly good. I think she will be fine. Still in the neonatal ICU, probably until Wednesday. Had a urinary tract infection, which needs to be taken seriously at 2 weeks old. Thanks for asking. Urinary tract infections for infants is relatively rare. I find that really alarming because that obviously has to do with children's private parts. And this guy is kind of saying, hey, this baby now has UTI. Number one, who gives away their child's medical records to someone so willy-nilly? And these probably aren't your friends, right? They're Greg Weiler, who is that Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Why would you text about that and or email about that? It makes no logical sense unless maybe something happened to this child. This to me was one of the more alarming ones, just being in healthcare in my past. That's not normal. Older people tend to get UTIs a lot more easily, but I don't think it's very common for babies. So that's horrible to me. And then this one, it's about talking to the Pope. So these people that Jeffrey Epstein knew, they had access to the Pope. They had access to the Vatican. Jeffrey Epstein, actually, there's an email about him trying to get to the Vatican. So it's not like he's operating outside of polite society. He's going to places that a lot of us common folk don't even get to go. And that's what money and influence does for you. But here's one of the redacted names of somebody emailing Jeffrey Epstein saying, I forgot to tell you, I went to see the Pope in Rome on Sunday while he was giving his speech. He told us a beautiful story about two women both having a baby. During the night, one woman suffocates her baby in her sleep, doesn't do it on purpose. Horrified of what happens the day after, she decides to switch babies with the other women, pretending the other one died. The woman recognized it wasn't hers, but the other one wouldn't admit her sin. Since she couldn't find a compromise, they both went to see King Solomon in order that he could figure out and decide who's going to keep the baby. Since they couldn't find out the truth, the king said, oh, at this point, I will kill the baby. And the woman screamed, I killed it. Please give it back to her real mother. And the king took the baby and gave it to the woman who screamed. So many things wrong with this. Why would the Pope say that? I don't know if this is actually true or not, or if it's just kind of a sick joke, but that's something they would think is funny. And why would anyone think that's funny? I would never find that to be a funny joke. It's kind of disturbing talking about killing children and babies dying, and they just think, oh, that's the funniest thing in the world. So this is how they talk. They talk in a way that just no normal person would ever talk. I don't know if you guys make jokes like that. I mean, every once in a while you'll say something that's probably, not very nice. But I don't know if I would be joking about, people, dead babies. And then another one, sick baby. This person, I think her name's Nicole Junkerman, messages Epstein, sick baby. And then he says, well, deal, question mark. What does that mean? Does it mean because the baby's sick, he wants to make a deal for this baby? I have no idea. Why would you message about that? Like, is that a code word? What would sick baby mean? If you guys have any idea, please let me know in the comments because I don't know what that means. It doesn't, and these people talk like so much in code, like they don't make sense. Like instead of saying my baby's sick and then him being like, well, did you get them to the doctor? They just said, well, deal. It's like, okay, what deal are we making about a baby? They're just, it just doesn't add up. And then I posted this one on Twitter. Jeffrey Epstein messaged Noam Chomsky, and this is also what's weird about the files. Some of these people, we can see who they are. So it almost feels like there's some sort of, I don't know how the DOJ is editing this. How about that? I don't know why some people are coming out and maybe they're an enemy to somebody. I don't know. I'm just making assumptions here. And that's my own personal opinion. But why would we know who Noam is, but not the person who says the other million sick things that are in here? So anyway, just something to point out and think about. So anyway, Jeffrey sent him, thinking of coming to Cambridge Sunday. Not confirmed yet. If I do, I can bring you some pickled herrings. I think he's saying pickled herrings or pickles and herring. I don't know. I don't know for sure. So I took it as pickled herring. Could be pickles and herring if you have time. And then he said any special food requests, which we know these people talk in food code. That's why I'm bringing this up. And then this guy says, your choices are always great. Number one, elites probably don't go around bringing food. They normally have food delivered to them, catered to them. This is why would he go out of his way coming to Cambridge when he's in either Florida or New York or the island, right? That's not Cambridge, so he would have to bring his pickles or their pickled herring. Once again, another word that I think is code, and I don't know what it stands for. A lot of people have been able to debunk what pizza means, hot dog means, and then different variations of those. But I could not find it. And I even searched Reddit, which sometimes has some good, off the cuff things. And I just could not find anything about pickles or herrings. I kind of had this is kind of a thought that I thought it could be, was maybe it's talking about pickled children, which is horrible. And I don't know if that's what it means, but a lot of this stuff is coming to light that they had even more sick practices than, other people would actually know about. I did find a video of Roseanne Barr actually on Tucker's, on his show. I think it was 2 years ago when, or at least a year ago, and she was talking about how she knew they ate babies. And she's like, you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but when I went to, I think she went to a hospital for her psychiatric health, and she said a lot of the women were victims of elites, and they were talking about how they were abused, obviously, but also that they saw them eating humans. And Roseanne Barr said this, and I can drop it in the description if you guys want to watch that video because I have it. It's disturbing that that's actually true. Okay, and then I have one more I want to show you guys, and that's this one. It's from Who Knows, and it says, alert, did I send the baby pic over correctly? Okay. Why would we need to know if you sent a baby pic over correctly? I'm pretty sure if you and I were doing this in good faith and wanted a picture of someone's baby, we would be happy with what they sent us because babies are cute, and babies, you can't get a bad baby pic. Like, you get a picture of a baby, most of us are just happy. So asking if I sent the baby pic over correctly, that should really raise alarms because no one says that. And who is this person? What I really want to know now after reading some of the stuff to you guys, and there's so many more, I actually want to do a few more series on this by the people because there are certain people that's names have came out, like Ehud Barak, Steve Bannon. Um, there's actually someone who worked under Bill Gates, and I can't remember her name right now, but that thread is actually extremely interesting because you learn a lot more about Bill Gates. So I think what I'll do the next few lives is come on and actually pull up these specific people's email threads with Epstein or their text threads, and we will go through them and react because it gives you a really good picture of what they actually talked about. Because what you're seeing from me right now is more of the sensational stuff. But what's extremely interesting is actually learning how the power dynamic worked, where Epstein was the holder of intelligence. He was an advisor. He was someone that the Rothschilds would come to and ask them how to do things. It wasn't like he was like how I pictured a blackmail operation, which is why I kind of even wonder if this was a blackmail operation 100%, was like you would think someone would be like, well, if you don't do this, then I'm going to do this. He doesn't talk like that at all. He talks like he is the most chill person in the world, no big deal, no worries. This is what I would do if I were you. Like he's very advisory, almost like a mentor to people. I mean, people you would not imagine he would mentor. He was talking to people at MIT, obviously people that worked directly under Bill Gates, and they would text him and talk to him for advice on how to talk to other high level people. So he didn't operate in a way you would normally assume. I thought of it, and this is maybe naive of me, but like a villain. Like, if you don't send this money here now, I'll release the tape. Whatever. That's how I thought he would be. He does not act like that at all. He acts like because it's in the back of his mind and he knows all this information. I mean, there's emails of him just getting forwarded financial information. They're just forwarded from people very high level, so he's in the know. So he operates like an intelligence asset, in my opinion. I don't know if I would say agent, but more of an asset, where he is somebody who housed enormous knowledge on how the financial systems were working, Bitcoin, science developments. He was into a ton of different topics, and reading through those would give you a really good understanding of, I think, his actual psyche and what he was doing, because it's very sensational to talk about the trafficking, but the amount of power he had and the influence he had across the world is even more scary than, I mean, not even more than, but at a very similar level, because I don't know why he was given all of this intelligence and all of the money, obviously. Um, and he was looked at as a trusted advisor to these people, not somebody who they were like talking to in secret. It was seemed very well known. He was on a lot of email threads, CC'd in them, like how you would CC your boss if you were trying to talk to another executive. You CC Epstein in there just so he knew about it. So that's very interesting, and I think that oh yeah, I agree. I think he did help move money, and I think he would try and do it in a way that would obviously not get them caught. And I think that was actually probably more of his primary function. I think maybe it's horrible to say, but the trafficking might have been some of the side work. I think the money management and the money moving, that was a way bigger enterprise for him. And he knew everyone in the baking industry. He was making really high level decisions for the Rothschilds. And then obviously it's came out where he says, as you know, I work for the Rothschilds, which is strange because when you read their emails, it doesn't seem like he works for them. It seems like they do very much rely on his take on things. So that's where I think some of my next series on Epstein is going to go, is into these different relationships he had. I did want to get some of the more sensational stuff out there because it's obviously necessary that we look at these people. Yes, we do need to expose all of the Epstein people because they knew it was going on as well. One of the more alarming things was one of the Rothschilds. She had a family, like an actual family, and he was like, "Oh yeah, bring him to the island." And I think they were younger at the time that this was occurring, and it was pretty obvious that They didn't care if their children were around him. Um, and if you know, and this was after he was convicted in 2000, I think it was 2008 or 9. And after that, a lot of his files are after that. I like that. 100,000 missing children, and you were talking about one 84-year-old mother of a celebrity. That's a distraction technique, Professor Hoodoo. I don't know if you think that, but I do. I think, yes, it could even play into the story about Epstein, but I think that people are tired of the distractions, and not a lot of people in mainstream media are actually covering the network that he was in, and they don't want to touch it because you can tell that these people are very complicit. They don't care what he does on the side for fun. Um, yeah, and they also talk about I'm just kind of giving high level right now, and then we'll get in the deep dives, I think, in a few more. Um, Woody Allen. Everyone wanted to see him in these files. Everyone wanted to see Woody Allen. And I thought, even I knew, and I'm a younger millennial, that he was bad news. I knew there was something weird about him. I'd heard rumors many times. And then I don't know if you guys heard the video with his wife talking about what happened to their daughter because of him. So it's one of those things where it's like that's well-known information in the sphere, in the elite sphere, and they do not care. They all want to hang out with Woody Allen. They all want to hang out with Epstein. They do want to be there. They're not being held against their will. They're not being told like Epstein's just throwing it out like an invitation, like you're always welcome on the island. You're always welcome in New York. Talk to my assistant. And his assistant would just set these people up to go and stay at his place, even if he wasn't there. So he would also host these people when he was away. And I think, if he had cameras or anything like that, I mean, that's also something to think about is if he ever had cameras and then these people are just coming in and out of his home, well, he probably was fine with it because he had cameras. He knew what they were doing. Um, so that's another thing is like the way that Epstein operated is not in a way that you would imagine because it wasn't seemingly very organized. Um, yes, I agree. The biggest thing nobody knew is J.E.'s power level. Really seems like he was in charge, not some lackey. No, 100%. 100%. They downplayed that he was like a head honcho, and he was not like some master organizer in a way you'd imagine. He would send out like these willy-nilly messages where it was like, yeah, no worries, just do this if you want to. And it was so strange because you'd imagine he would be, asking people things, but it was more like they were asking him what they should do. Um, and like he was the mastermind behind things, but he also wasn't like organizing these huge anything. Like he would just be like, "Oh yeah, come and go as you want." Um, so it was very weird to read these, and I think that we should read more of them, um, because when you see how he communicates, you realize I had a boss like this when they know they're the boss because they say like 5 words and then you're supposed to act on those 5 words. And that's how we talk to everyone. Like he wasn't sending these long, elaborate messages. They're super short. And then the people that you think are in power are sending him like way more information. And he's just eating that up. He's eating up, storing it in his bank. And then he knows, okay, this is what I know about them now. And so for him, intelligence is currency. And I think that's just something that it's hard to wrap your mind around. And then another thing is he was very connected to Hollywood. Um, he was very connected to Peggy Seagal. And we will do a whole section on her, but she is known for getting people into spaces. So she was kind of someone who would set you up so you could go farther, kind of like an agent, but way more than that. And he sent her like $30,000 as a birthday gift. He also, if I'm remembering correctly, because I'd like to pull this and actually do it live, and then I think he also paid for like a 25,000, maybe it's $15,000 ticket to, it might have been an Elton John fundraiser. It was a fundraiser. And he just paid for that off the bat for her. No big deal. It didn't seem like there was any strings attached. Obviously, with them, you never know what that is. But it just seems like he was giving it to her. And I don't know if it was so he could get more access to people in Hollywood, But Epstein was also very generous with his money. He would give to a ton of scientific communities, like people, heads of Harvard and MIT and things like that. And you were like, wow, I can't believe they would even talk to him. But they talked to him like he was the boss. He wasn't like, oh, can I please get into this Harvard event? It was more like, hey, here's where you need to send the money. And he'd be like, okay, no problem. And just send whatever it was. And it was very odd. I mean, the way people talked to him was like they knew he was the guy. Whereas how how you guys said in the comments, like they made it seem like he was somebody like working as an agent. And I think of him more as an asset, which is they may be similar to you. They are similar, but more of he's used kind of like for just his knowledge, but it doesn't seem like he's like on the job of anybody. He seems like he's moving things, manipulating markets, manipulating deals. So it's very different than you would have imagined. I guess in my head, I pictured him more like, um, how do I say it? I'm trying to think, like just like a spy. I don't know how, but he doesn't seem like that. He seems more like somebody who is way more in charge. So, I don't know. I just found it super interesting. I appreciate you guys coming to my live. My first live was yesterday, and I accidentally didn't play the sound. So I checked all of my stuff before I came on today. It was my first live ever, so I appreciate everyone who did come and still was very kind about that. I did link the video that I referenced though in the video. So thank you guys for coming to my first live. Thank you guys for being here on my second live. And then I think throughout this week, I have a lot of fun digging into this stuff, and I figured I could just do it live. So you guys can see it because I was mind blown. I've spent an ungodly amount of time. I mean, ridiculous. I think 20 hours at least reading these Epstein files. So that's why I gave a very high level view. But I do think it's very important to look at each character that we know. Because I just gave you a lot of people that were like unknown. But the people that you do know, it is very alarming. I think the top three are probably Peggy, Seagal, Steve Bannon, and Rothschild. I can't remember her first name. There's two in there, but there's one that he talks to a lot more than the other. Those three, I think, are my top three for the week that we should look at because they kind of changed the game for me on how I thought about um, him. And then maybe Bill Gates' medical. I think she was a CMO or something for him. So she was also very interesting because it was weird how they talked about Bill Gates, and I thought that was interesting. They kind of alluded to him being controlled maybe by Larry Fink. So very interesting digs. So I think that's what we're gonna do next. That's a funny comment. When you're an agent for a certain nation, you are in fact the boss because of how that network works and how deep it is. Amen. They don't call it a cabal for nothing, right? Anyway, well, thank you guys for coming. I just wanted to say I appreciate all your guys' support as I'm growing. If you guys have anything you want me to deep dive or anything you find interesting in the files, let me know. Also, obviously, still looking at the Charlie Kirk files. I do think that case is kind of like I think Candace is still just trying to get clarity, but I think we all kind of have the picture. Like, I don't know what else can really come out about that doesn't pretty much paint the story. Let me know what you guys think about that. So I might do a few more updates as they come out, but Epstein has a lot more actual information. I think the Charlie Kirk one is, I mean, I think a lot of people have figured out what happened. But I will still do updates and stuff on that. But I think unfortunately the picture to me seems fairly clear. Um, that there's at least a cover up going on. Another nation state may be involved, and obviously there's a lot of liars around him, and I think that is pretty clear. So I might start shifting some of my content a little bit. Yeah, the cover up. Yeah, a big old cover up. And obviously that's what's happening with Epstein too. So like I said, there's a lot of parallels, and I've been dying to try and find a link between people in this Charlie Kirk case and Epstein. And unfortunately, because there were so many redacted names, it's hard to. Obviously, the president is an obvious link because he's he's close to both of them. But I think there's more. I really, with how deep the intelligence ties are on the Charlie Kirk case, I would not be surprised if it comes out that there is a link somehow. But because of all the names that have been redacted, it's almost impossible to find it. I've digged so hard. So I'm still working on that because I just have a feeling there's some link there. Um, I don't want to say name names yet until I can prove something, but I do have a hunch there's something tying them together, obviously. Some common themes here. So anyway, that's what I've been working on. Yeah, do you think so? You think Candace? Okay, I'm not gonna say that aloud on my. I wondered that, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. It'd be nice if we could. You know what I did do? I know I'm kind of talking in code here, but what I did do is I looked at the files of the Epstein files, and I looked up some very specific names um, to try and see if I could find any link in there. But you know who I haven't looked for was her husband. I wonder if I could find something there. That's actually a good thought. Because I think he has some stuff going on. Um, but I'm not that familiar in her background as much. I've done a lot more digging, obviously, in Charlie's and his surrounding folks, but it would be very interesting to see if there are more links, like you said. Um, anyway, we're 19 years old until the last few years. Yes. Did you see that Ye apologized? I love this comment section. That's so fun. Did you guys see Ye apologized apparently? But then everyone's like, well, why would you apologize? A lot of stuff has came out to come forward for you. Like, poor, like, I don't know. That situation is very sad. We all know he has a handler. Um, and I'm so glad I'm not part of that world. I don't know if you guys are going through this stuff and just thinking like, it would always be nice to have a little bit more money. That would be helpful, right? Because just to better quality of life. But like that would be the only perk of like rolling in any elite group because they're all controlled. Um, fights all the others that notice. Oh, yes. Yes. Like she fights when they say something back about her, like about him changing his mind again. Is that what you're saying? Um, yeah. So anyway, I don't know about y'all, but I'm only controlled by the fact that I obviously have a family. Like these people are controlled by entities, they're controlled by um the banking system, and we're all a little bit controlled by that, right? Because we don't live like I always think about the Amish people and how they probably have that right. Like they seem to be like just living a life that we're not privy to. And it almost seems like a better life now. Okay, yeah, send me another email. Yes, send me another email. And I'm sorry I didn't follow back up. I don't give my phone number out. I try and stay a little bit anonymous. That's why I don't say my name in this. But obviously, if I'm found what my name is, people know I have a channel. Um, I only have YouTube and I have no social media anymore. So I realized that was a very slippery slope for people. And also, I don't know about you guys, but my opinions have changed as I've gotten older or wiser. And I just realized maybe I don't want that on the internet forever and ever and ever. Of when I was 20 years old versus now, like my life has changed. So it's hard to keep on social media. I don't really want to be held like it's not natural to be held to something you thought it when you were 20 versus when you're in a different age in your life, right? So I don't know. I've decided social media is not for me. Besides YouTube, I love coming on here and just talking politics. That's fun to me. Yeah. Yes, please send me another email. I actually do want to talk to you. I would even love to interview you. Um, okay. Ooh, manufactured personality. Good. Yeah, I want to hear this. I'd love to dive into that. Just to learn more. Yeah, please email me. And thank you for being here. I love your stuff on Twitter too. So anyway, all right, y'all. Well, I'm gonna call it for the day. Thank you so much for being here. Please leave me a comment if there is anything after this live ends that you want me to look into or any other names that you think are relevant. I will do it. I will do a live deep dive. This was more of an overview. Next time, you're actually going to watch me work, and I will I will share my screen, do all that stuff. And it's pretty fun to research. So, anyway, hope y'all have a good day. Bye, y'all.